don't you ever change what you're going to say, what you think, or what you feel for anybody ever again. My body was in acute and chronic pain. I have an autoimmune disorder that attacks my spine, and it was just like I could not shoulder another moment. I became a people pleaser and I kept my truth to myself for a very, very long time. And then mediums are born from trauma. And I said that to one person, and well, no, I'm just interested. Okay, well, you get back to me later because you're going to be triggered. And it would be a shame not to acknowledge your pain, because it's your pain that made you who you are, who brought you to where you are and made you who you are.
Powerful.
So acknowledge it, bless it, and give grace to it.
Hello, beautiful soul. So here I am, Yulia, today your host, and I want you to warmly welcome Christine Rogerson. She's international medium, and she knows a thing or two really about how to deal with your traumas and how not just to get rid of your ADHD, but how to learn live with it. Can you imagine? We just had a talk behind the scenes, and she really blew my mind. She blew my mind by saying, Yulia, you can live with this. So Christine, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
So before we get started, I would love you to introduce yourself more, because I can say like a thing or two about you, but the best introduction is coming from the author.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the lovely introduction. I am an international evidential medium, which means I prefer to go direct to spirit versus psychically connecting. I read animals and people that are in spirit. I also connect with past lives, and I'm a spiritual life coach, as well as I teach mediumship on a worldwide platform.
So you say you are an evidential medium. Could you elaborate a bit more about that? You said that the difference is that you go directly to spirit and not through psychic connection. So I would love to dig more into that.
We all have the ability to be psychic. We all have that inner knowing that guides us, that gut feeling that sometimes we listen to it and sometimes we don't. With evidential mediumship, I've learned the mechanic of dropping my brain waves below 13 hertz on a dime, so that I can go direct to spirit. Whereas psychics usually will connect to a loved one through you, because we carry them in our essence. And sometimes they will drop down below 13 hertz and get a little nugget and give it to you. Whereas an evidential medium, they give us signs, symbols, imagery that we interpret, and I just give to you to validate. So all I want you to say is yes, no, I don't know. I'm not asking you, is your mother in spirit? I'm telling you, I have a woman stepping forward and she feels very motherly. You'd understand that? And that's the difference. That sets us apart between psychic and an evidential mediumship. My goal is to prove life after life and connect you with the memory or moments that you know that your loved one is with me.
Did you have the glimpses like that yourself? Like, I see that your goal to connect the life after life. And I just not so long ago, I was on this show with Greg Braden, and they were just like talking a lot about connecting life after life as well there.
Yes.
So and they recommended a lot of tools there how to do that. So I'm very curious every time when I talk to mediums or to psychic people from that perspective who had that connection. Just like, did you get that glimpse, and how was that?
So I have a really strong belief system. I've been connected with my team, my spirit guides, for over 30 years.
Mm.
And I became a Reiki master and delved into crystal healing for personal reasons. And I always had a knowing, like it's the same thing with the past lives. Ever since I was 5, I've always had a knowing when I've had a reference to a past life. So we're a soul that agreed to have this experience. When we connect with our loved ones, they give us a thought, a random weird thought, and that's how they're communicating. But
Mm.
when you don't understand the dynamic behind it, that's when we talk ourselves out of it, and we think, it's me, I'm doing that, it's not them. How could it be them? But it is them.
When was the first time when you get that connection?
When I was 5.
Oh, wow. And how did it kind of like, if you're okay to answer, how did it happen?
Yeah. I remember I was in the hospital and I had actually woke up. I had a night terror, what I thought, and it was a past life dream. And I had a knowing, but it didn't know the connection. And then I had a very strong connection to my imaginary friend, which was my guide. And
Mm.
I knew that she was there. I always knew that she was there. So I was kind of like I needed that little bit of a jolt that night. And then she was my comfort. And she actually saved me several times from a number of times of, getting myself into trouble. And it was then. And then of course, life takes you away from it. And then our team is always trying to get us back there.
Mm.
They throw pebbles at us and we brush them off, and our ego thinks that, well, I don't need your help. I'm good. And then they throw rocks at us and we're like, excuse you, I'm good. And then they throw bricks at us and then they drop a house on us. And it's like, okay, that's when we start to barter. I'm sorry, I'll listen. Like, please help me. And that's when, you finally get to a point where it's complete surrender. And I had a very near death experience about 6 years ago now. And that was my house burnt down. And my partner and I, it was like mere minutes that we got out alive.
Oh,
And it was kind of like, okay, I'm yours. All right. I surrender. You win.
wow.
And yeah, so I was there.
Oh, I can relate to that completely. When I actually also started having the same experiences as you, but we all have our individual experiences which are related to our souls. I believe so.
Yeah.
Everyone has something kind of like pre-cooked for them. So,
Yeah.
but the principles are pretty much the same. It's exactly what you explain, that I surrender, I'm yours, because when I didn't surrender, I actually wanted to shut it down. I thought that I'm crazy. So
Yeah.
I actually wanted to shut it down. Guess what happened? I stopped hearing physically. So,
Yeah.
and it's just like, what is happening? Like, I cannot explain this. And something started happening with my brain. But once I surrendered, everything got back to normal. It's
Yeah.
just like something within stops functioning if you don't surrender.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, like over 30 years ago, when I completely opened myself up, it was actually a little, not scary, but a little bit intimidating because I would get eyes. I would just get eyes coming in like really fast.
Mm.
And it was like, okay, you all got to stop that because I can't deal with it. And then I had to begin to, because I didn't know, we as mediums always are in control. When you think of spirit as the highest form of intelligence, the perfection of love, and omnipresent, then doesn't it make sense that if we say stop it, they'll stop it?
Mm.
But we can say, okay, stop it on my terms. So when I say I'm open to receive, come in one at a time.
Mm.
So I'm
I can relate to
controlling.
that. I confirm it as well for all our audience in here, so that we would be like one team acting here. Because yeah, when I was around 7, my mom, she was not prepared also for a child like me. And what happened is she wanted to put me into some psychiatry clinic and lock me
Yeah,
in there. So I was so afraid of it. And I literally like claimed it. I declared it, stop it. And then that's
yeah,
it. It just stopped.
yeah, yeah.
So that's completely what you say, one to one.
Absolutely. See, I had a father that was a narcissist, but also had severe PTSD. So I learned very, very young, my ego self, that I couldn't be responsible for somebody's pain. So
Mm,
I became introverted and I wouldn't express what was going on inside. So who was I gonna tell? That's why my imaginary friend, my guide, I told her everything. And
mhm.
I think that's why my connection to my guide, my master guide is so strong.
So you had
Because
that incubator period, so-called,
absolutely.
so that you would kind of like grow through that. It's just like that period in between the, to get to the butterfly level, you have to have to go through that incubator period, right? When there is some
Yeah, the cocoon.
chaotic, traumatic experience, and then you become a butterfly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely.
mhm.
But every person's path is their own, right?
Yes, yes. And there is like this concoction, like I would say the individualized cup of poison for everyone here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
The stinge of the Scorpio.
yeah. Well,
There's something around
it's
that.
funny because when I connect with past lives, I begin to see that there's a theme to your soul. So, and I'm an 8 in this life, so it's all about my strength, right?
Mm,
And my strength has been definitely tested over and over and over again.
mm,
And but you have to know when to exert that strength and when to um pull it back and sit on it for a bit and learn your lessons. And when things keep happening, that's when you're not getting the lesson, you're not understanding what it is you're supposed to learn. So sometimes it takes us a little, a little longer to get the memo, but we finally get there.
That's a very interesting topic which you touched regarding the strengths, because that's exactly the thing what I've been struggling with, and I see it in many women today,
Yep,
because we kind of like get that strength, economical strength today. And the question is already how to balance it, how to exert it, and how to pull it back, in those moments, because otherwise it's
yep.
hurting us. So what's your story? How did you find your balance?
I was, like I said, I became a people pleaser and was very I kept my truth to myself
Mm,
for a very, very long time. And then again, I was in a very abusive relationship and I honestly I thought I was gonna completely break.
mm,
My body was in acute and chronic pain. I have an autoimmune disorder that attacks my spine. And it was just like I could not shoulder another moment. And I knew that I had to break away. So, but before that, I knew that people in the community were judging me. And I really had to um, there's a song by Terry Clark. It says, "Sorry, my give a damn is busted." Well, my give a damn was really busted. I really had to stop putting so much value in what other people thought of me and
mm,
start to believe in myself more and give myself that. And it's been a struggle. Like it was really a struggle.
mhm.
And
So,
I
so what
and
allowed
I did.
so what allowed you actually to pull yourself out from that people-pleasing attitude?
So after my house burned down, I finally, believe it or not, this is a true story. I was trying to help a friend out and I said, okay, let's take some Udemy classes together. And I was in a Zoom room with a gentleman an elderly gentleman that's in New Zealand. And he looked in the camera and he pointed at me and he said, you're claircognizant. And I was like, oh, okay. He goes, don't you ever change what you're going to say, what you think, or what you feel for anybody ever again. And I was like, um, okay, okay. And then I thought, so I had a real dialogue back and forth, back and forth. And that was a defining moment in my life, in that it kind of just pushed me over that top, where before I could do it sometimes, but this was the game changer. It was like he finally gave me the ability to give myself permission to stand up for myself and say, no, no, you don't get to talk me out of how I feel, what I know, and what my truth is anymore. Nobody does. And that was my line in the sand. So
Very powerful.
I firmly believe, when I look back, there's moments in my life where I would hear that one defining phrase or comment that was a game changer for me, that allowed me to move forward. So it's been a process, but that was the final straw, and I stepped into it. And that was a game changer completely for me.
That's very powerful, I would say.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, just to give also my few cents for that, when I also went through quite similar experience, I think all of our audience here, they all can get connected. I keep hearing the same type of complaints regarding the beginning of life, the pleasing experience, you know, when we start pleasing other people, our husbands, brothers, fathers, whoever they are. And just what's happening is we forget about ourselves, right? So everyone has their personalized experience there. So what helped me, just I wanted to share, because we already like talk about the same topic, that phrase which somehow descended here to my mind. I don't know why. I allow only what I allow. So when I just heard that and I wrote it down just a few times, something magical happened. It's just like there was a burst out of energy. Just like, and I remember I went to the room and I just got very naked, you know, just like no clothing at all. I just put down the curtains. It was a dark room and I just literally said it out loud. I don't know what happened. It just was something personalized for me. So girls, in case if you hear that, it also can help.
Yep, absolutely. There's also, there's mirror work. Louise Hayes, Good Morning, I Love You. I had to do it a month, and I had to keep doing it, where you pat yourself in the heart and just say, good morning, I love you. And the reason you say it out loud is to undo the verbal assault that you have had throughout your life. So you're replacing that narrative within your ear.
Yes.
It's very, very important.
This
very
is
important.
so damn important. It's just like, oh my God, especially when you become really that so-called clairvoyant, sentient, whatever. If you start just really connecting to your intuition, to your inner deep core true self, what's happening is we kind of like start seeing all these programs within and outside, right?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
I, for example, saw a program, my mom with her psyche today, she never truly said that she loves me, in fact. So never ever she really could say it. She only could say it that she loves me when I was in trouble. And then she's like, okay, and when I was not strong. But when I was strong, she never said I love you. I don't know.
I have a similar experience.
You had similar, so can you share
Yeah.
that? I just like I
Yeah.
was really like hearing it, just like she has it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I have three older brothers and then my father. So there was, and my mom was an introvert, so she didn't really say it, and she was so consumed with taking care of a very sick brother, a troubled brother, and then my dad. There was nothing left for me. I was the baby. And it wasn't until she was in her 70s where she's my best friend, and I would start saying, I love you, Mom, I love you, I love you. And me too. But then she finally started saying, I love you. But it
Mm.
was it was very disconnected. And I
Mhm.
remember when talk about synchronicities, this is one of those moments where I always go into the bookstore and I pick up the books that are on sale. And I still have it. I have, yeah, I picked it up, A New Earth, right?
Can you show it
And
closer to the cam? Mm.
Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth.
Oh, okay. That's a very powerful.
So do you see my tags?
Wow. That's lots of
My
work.
tags. I have but so I got one for me, and then I got one from my mom, and I got one from my neighbor.
Mm.
And Oprah then announced A New Earth as her book club choice of the. So we all started going through it, and we had many aha moments. We had many moments of clarity. My mom was raised by an alcoholic father, and her mom like hired her out as a domestic by the age of 12.
Mm.
So she didn't know love. So how
Yeah,
could she give it to me?
that is so true. That is so true, Christine. You know why? Because that
Why?
was exactly 100% same realization which I had around my mom.
Yeah,
She was raised also in a very abusive family by her
yeah,
father, who was regularly doing physical stuff with her. And then I don't go into details, but it was not the pleasant situations.
no,
So what
yeah,
happened in the end is she couldn't really give that love to us, me and my sister. So, and it's just like that growing beyond your mom, that she's so-called like your creator, becoming that vision as a creator vision, that she's
yeah,
just your sister, allows you to see so much more and forgive. And then you understand there is nothing to forgive, right?
absolutely. And I mean, like her mom was the same. Like her mom was one of five sisters, lost their parents in World War I, had to come over to Canada. The list. So this is a generational thing. It's
Yes.
a generational thing of trauma to the women. And we've got to be the ones that change it and alter it.
Yeah, because we either can continue that, right? Or we can
Yeah,
help. With me, it will stop. There is a reason why
yeah,
we actually become so much more aware with our generation about all this
yeah,
stuff. We can raise our voices and discuss it.
yeah. So
Mm.
I spend with a lot of my clients, I connect with I connect with their loved ones, even the ones that caused them trauma, because I explain to them that that's an only an ego has a negative thought, feeling, or emotion, that they aren't like that over there, that they are this perfection of love and they want to bring healing.
Mm.
And they want forgiveness. I remember asking a counselor, like, what is forgiveness? Well, it's the act that you give yourself. I'm like, well, thanks for that. That helps. Um, and I actually had to go on this exploration of understanding that, and Elizabeth Smart story is a very prime example of giving that forgiveness where it needs to be given. It's
Mm.
you allow them to stop living rent free in your head,
Oh, that is so
and
true.
there is no more emotional reaction either way.
That is
And that's
so true.
that's the freedom that you get from releasing them.
Mm. Can I add to that as well? Because
Yes.
I just like what you say, I can actually demonstrate it, I think, on my white dashboard. It will be so, so good for everyone who is listening
Yeah.
right now, because we are all visual here, more or less. So guys, just for you to understand what Christine is talking about here, we have our brains, right? So this is our brain. Everyone sees that. So Christine, do you see that? Like, is it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. And we have our wiring. We have our wiring. And let's say there is a wiring with your brother. It's like this. This is the wiring. So unless you actually, let me just like make it even with another color. This is the wiring. And it disturbs you. And unless you don't really heal it, what is happening, what Christine is talking about, it's like the brain of your brother who hurt you is in here. You go continuously, guys, to his room. That's what's happening. And
Yeah.
then you don't have your life. And that's what Christine actually meant here. I'm sorry that I stepped in. I just wanted to really show you
Yeah. No,
exactly what
it's
I'm
true.
teaching.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm.
And I mean, like when you have that, and I saw the moment that my mom was able to forgive her dad, and it gave her such a sense of peace.
Mm.
But you also, I'm estranged from my oldest daughter. I had her when I was 16, and I gave everything to give her the life that I didn't have. And I have spent more time out of her adult life than in it, because it's easier for her to blame me than
Mm.
to accept. I said, I can't keep saying it. I'm sorry. I can't change the past. I can only stay right here, right now. And you either see the new me, the parts that have changed, that have
Mm.
healed, and allow me to form that relationship, but she doesn't want. So she's still in that pain mode, and that's on her. I'm not responsible for her
That is
thoughts,
so
feelings, and
right.
emotions.
That is so right. And by the way, that this is a wonderful, wonderful, kind of like subtle thing which you touched in here, because once we start
Yes.
our opening to that spirit coming through us, we are always feeling sorry for all that nasty nasty behavior
Yeah.
which we had. And everyone has that skeleton in the shelf.
Oh, absolutely. The thing I always say that mediums are born from trauma.
Mm.
And I said that to one person, and well, no, I'm just interested. Okay, well, you get back to me later because you're going to be triggered. That's the problem, that when you are connecting, when you go out into the world and you are connecting with people, um, you don't know what evidence is going to come through that's going to trigger those emotions. And you cannot crumble when you are trying to bring healing to the person in front of you.
That is so true. That is so true. I'm living with my husband, for example. He's such a beautiful soul. Like, but I observe differences. He came from a much more stable family.
Yeah,
My family, and that's why he's more stable. He's like a rock, you know. I can see his
yeah,
psychology. He's a rocky man, you know. And
yeah,
I am just like, I came from every possible disgust, like in my family, which could happen. Like, I know there are much worse cases. Like the worst thing which didn't happen in my family, probably raping, but all the rest
yeah,
happened. So when we actually look at these, like, then there is no kind of like surprise why the personality was so unstable. And then I was thinking, why it's happening to me? But then it's exactly what you mentioned. You had to go through that so
yeah,
that you could actually relate to that. For example, my husband, he can never, ever help anyone who goes from the experience of alcoholic families. He
yeah.
just doesn't get it.
Nope.
He doesn't get all this pain. He gets it mentally, but not here.
Absolutely. And I can, like, so I have a belief, I have a hypothesis that those of us who have had parents or grandparents that have served in the military, that have fought wars, they came back to us broken. Those who don't, like my partner, his father never went to war. I don't even think his grandfather went to war. So he can't even grasp the impact that it had on us. Like I have military PTSD by proxy because of my father's military PTSD. And when you have all of these people coming back broken, drinking to escape the horrors that are behind their eyes, what happens is that it changes us as empaths. So
Yes.
I too have a partner who I believe he's on the spectrum. He has I always call it his nothing box. He has a huge nothing box. I don't know how he does it, but he can shut his brain off and it's like, okay, you got to show me how you do that because I need to do that. And
Yes, and that's exactly what I am really wondering. How do you do that going
exactly.
below that 30 hertz? So how do you do that actually?
So here's my technique. Um, we learn to meditate to help center ourselves and to bring us quiet the mind. After the fire, my youngest suggested the Muse headband, where you listen to, you have a headband that monitors your brain waves. You listen to like a thunderstorm, and the more active your brain is, the louder the sound goes. But the object is to bring it down to quiet, and a little bird will chirp. Well, I like birds, so it's like, oh, there's a bird. And I'm like, now I got to do it again. So then I thought, okay, I can't use this. I've got to use something. Your breath, one single breath. And I always remember I injured my hand and a doctor said, because I said, how come it hurts so much? He said, your hand feels. And I'm like, okay. So when you put your fingers to your mouth, you can actually feel your breath on your fingertips. So just focus on that breath touching your fingertips. And eventually what happens is that when you stay there, you do this, I call it the baby breath, where you go, and you bring your awareness down to your chest, your lungs just expanded. You realize that, oh my God, I've been shallow breathing. Oh my God, I'm expanding my lungs. So your focus is here. Now, I used to be a lab technician, so I've seen the red blood cell underneath a microscope, and you can look it up on YouTube. Your red blood cell is perfect. The science behind it is perfect because here's your oxygen molecule, your red blood cell. The oxygen molecule goes in and it attaches to the part that makes it red. That's the heme. So now that red blood cell is going to travel through your body, connecting with every single cell in your body. Now watch a tree or watch a plant. I have a beautiful peace lily. So when I'm breathing, I'm looking at my peace lily and I'm giving to her as she gives to me. I give to her as she gives to me. So just with your breath, stay with your breath. I'm down below 13 hertz now because there's no thought. When you focus on your breath, your conscious mind cannot interrupt with thoughts.
This is very, very powerful, Christine. It is so powerful. It's bringing us back to all the ancient wisdom of Indians, by the way, all these pranayamas,
Yeah.
because it's again, just all those Indians, they're so amazing. My just husband started playing chess. I was thinking it's invented in China, but it's also invented in India. Can you imagine everything from India?
Yeah. So it's, I mean, like as simple as literally focus on your breath here.
Mm.
And if you connect it with a tree, because remember, one breath connects you with every living thing on this planet.
Oh, this is very powerful. You know, it brings me to astrological
Yeah,
understanding, Vedic understanding of our body, because based on it, kind of like our heart is represented by the sun. So
yeah,
what you say is that, in fact, the central celestial body in our galaxy, right? It's the sun. And
yeah,
then if all this is coming through the breath, you cleanse yourself through the breath. And these, all our lungs are around the heart, and it's all about this pumping in, pumping out. So
yeah.
kind of like share that love with everyone through our
So,
celestial body here.
well, the seat of the soul is behind your heart,
Mm,
right? The seat of
that's
the
very powerful.
soul. So I have another hypothesis. Everyone is always looking for their soulmate. It's like, you don't want to find your soulmate. It's like, wait a second. What if your soul is your soulmate? Your
Mm,
ego is here, your soul is here. And it's about learning to find a balance between ego self, which is edging God or greatness out, and soul self. Your
mm,
soulmate is your soul.
mm.
So it's connecting, it's marrying your ego with your soul.
Mm. And that's where
Just a thought.
transformation comes, right?
Yeah,
Transformation. I think
yeah,
in some sense we all owe that transformation to that ego which we have, because ego here, you know, when I'm looking around at everyone, including myself, here and there, we are kind of triggered, right? We triggered, and saying
yeah,
that, hey, I'm not triggered, I'm like a rock, it's we will look at it, right?
absolutely.
So, and then when you see what's happening, it's kind of like healing ourselves from that ill ego, transform
Yeah,
and helping others as well, being compassionate to others with their ill egos, because all the problems are coming from those 7 sins, which are mentioned in the Bible.
yeah, yeah. Well, I was, so if your ego is over here, I always say it's the little devil on your shoulder. Um, and in comes fear. So only the ego knows a negative thought, feeling, or emotion.
Oh, yeah.
So we use our ego to ignite fear, and fear is false ego appearing real.
Mm-hmm.
So when you understand that, um, all fear is another word for not being able to trust yourself to deal with whatever outcome comes your way.
Mm-hmm. That's very, very interesting thought, because it can bring that firm foundation to many
Yeah,
people, I believe so. Trust in yourself.
absolutely. So mediumship is all about learning to trust that I can get it wrong and I'm okay with that.
Mm,
And but learning that my interpretation and the way that I deliver it is I have to trust that that's what I'm getting, so I give it,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
If you say no, I can't take that, then I'm going to go back and say, okay, what does this mean to me? And sometimes it's very simple that but our ego wants to overcomplicate it. So this is the greatest issue with when you're learning evidential mediumship, because you keep bopping up above 13 hertz, and it's like there's a simple mechanic to bring you back down. Just breathe, focus on your breath, bring yourself back down. And
Mm,
then what is it?
mm-hmm. That's interesting. Christine, I
I'm
have
not,
a question. Uh,
yeah,
most of my people, actually, they are very interested in tarot. And I know that you are also a tarot cards reader and an
yeah.
oracle. What do you kind of like think about cards, about tarot cards? How do you use them in your practice? and maybe like a few tips to those tarot beginners who want to master them. That would be really interesting to learn.
So I started out with a James Van Praagh deck and the Soul's Journey. So the way that I primarily use it now is that because we're visual, I will use the cards, and I use 4 decks because 4 decks, that's over 200 cards. For them to all say the same thing, it's like spirit going, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? So when you're using cards, it's just another divination tool to give you an interpretation. People tend to want to read books, and it's better for you to look at the card and what does the card mean to you. So that's intuitive reading of the card. And I'm all for that. That's how I started, where I pulled a card a day. Every day I pulled a card, and sometimes I would understand it. I used to always do a zodiac read, and I would use a book to help me interpret the cards. I would pull certain aspects of the card. And I remember, like, I did this every New Year's Eve for years, years. I think this year was actually the first time I didn't do it. And it was surprising. I didn't always go back and read it for that month. I would read it at the end of the month. And even the month that my mom passed away and I lost my dog, 2 weeks later, my card told me I was going to lose a loved one and possibly a pet. So there is proof in the divination of the cards. It's what you get out of it. And again, you're doing yourself a disservice of just starting out by reading everybody else's interpretation. Start by reading your interpretation of what the card tells you.
Yes, I actually can completely relate to that, because when I started more than 10 years ago, all this practice, I started like, like I was a perfect student. I really wanted to learn and everything. And
Yep.
I was reading lots of books, lots of interpretations, but then I came to the point I actually cannot read. I was in my head all the freaking time. So
Yep.
it took me lots of time to unlearn all these memory, because if you are here, guys, you are not here. And the whole thing about tarot, it's exactly like Christine is saying, you actually want to connect to your intuition. You want to connect to your heart. And
Yep.
it's just like, and listen to Christine also, she's another practicing teacher in that. So I just wanted actually to hear that from you, because I was sure you will tell me there was something about that intuitive tarot reading.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Intuitively reading the cards. I watched 3 ladies one time who said they were intuitives, and they proceeded to open the book and read from the book. And I'm like, but that's not intuitive. You do understand what intuitive means, right?
Yes. Yes.
Look, read the card. Yeah. And then you have to understand how it pertains to the situation, the querent, and the question, and how to move forward. So that's the approach that I take. I try to use it more as a visual tool at the end now.
Do you use it just to, not only as a divination tool, but as a tool to figure out like more what is happening inside you, like with a specific situation, like a self-reflection tool?
Not so much anymore. Like I said, I go direct to spirit. So what
You
happens
don't use it.
is, if spirit is talking about let's say spirit, if I'm connecting with your mom, let's just say, and she's talking about not always getting it right, that she accepts ownership for her choices, and there's a reference to certain situations where she did the best that she could. And then I'm pulling cards and the card is coming up, choices and empathy, having an understanding that, in the moment, if she had known better, she could have done better. But the lesson is that her message in the cards is coming to you to say, you've risen far above the lessons that she had learned and anything that she could have taught you. So by not teaching you what she could have or should have, you actually far exceeded that because, and that's the reference to the cards,
So kind of
right?
like to get a bit more precise perspective on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because spirit will always.
It's like that tool which allows you to see deeper.
Yeah. So that's why I always say it's not about what you want to hear. It's about what they want you to hear. And sometimes they know.
Yeah, it's not the answers what you need, what you want to hear. It's the answers what you need to hear, not
Exactly.
right?
And like I had a woman, and I'm connecting with her mom and and she says, I said, well, you have, like, she wasn't happy with what I was saying at first. And I said, yeah, but you understand that you are reactionary, not action based. And she was like, well, what do you mean? And so I went through the read and I gave her the evidence and I said, so you have PTSD, right? Well, I know from my husband having 5 affairs. And I'm like, so when I said he's a narcissist, you said, no, I don't think so. And I'm like, how do you figure? And I said, why is it that it's okay with you to lower your standard enough that he can have 5 affairs? Do you not love yourself enough that once is one time too many?
Yes.
So do you see what your mom was trying to tell you? That you are worth so much more than what you value yourself.
This is very, very powerful.
And we often
hear lower standards and higher standards. It's all about.
Well, we operate out of guilt, right? And that's where I told you, I always say that guilt implies intent to cause harm. And when I say that to somebody, I explain that your heart and the intention behind your actions, but the person that you're hurting is yourself. And you don't deserve to hurt yourself like that. You deserve to love yourself in that place.
Yes, we all need to come back to that love. So, Christine, that was a fascinating talk. But before we finish, I am really intrigued to ask you that question, because every person who comes to my show, I usually ask them to give some kind of piece of advice which will work for those who are listening to us. But today I want to ask a specific question, not just a general piece of advice, but how to come back to that self-love out of that guilt. What would you recommend?
So I believe several things that do help. I always suggest binaural beats for self-love, binaural beats to heal your inner child. On YouTube, you can find them. People don't tend to use them correctly. You need to use headphones. Do it at bedtime or when you can be consistent. Minimum half hour for 2 to 3 weeks. They do work. It's a slow reprogramming of the mind. You have to understand.
Channel? I'm sorry, do you have a specific channel which you can recommend maybe?
There's a list of them, so it's preference. So it's you've got to go through and find one that you like and then go with it. You can mix them up. It's the hertz that you're listening to. So the one thing that I always say is that most people, most empaths, their 4 or 5-year-old self created a job to protect yourself. So when you start first of all, look up tips and tricks on how to be an empath and how to stop ruminating, because the hamster on the wheel in your head has got to stop. And when you start deploying the techniques, you have to understand that that little child that created the job to protect you, to be that people pleaser, she's got a job to do, and she's over here and she's going to get a little loud. So when you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to stand behind my decision and I'm going to do this, and she's going to go, no, wait, no, remember when we do this, we always get in trouble. You're going to go, no, I got it. You sit in the timeout chair. And I would literally say, my human is having an experience. I was going to put her over here for a second, just chill for a moment. I'm just going to breathe and just take that breath and reconnect with Mother Earth. Reconnect with your breath. She will silence down. It takes 21 days to change a behavior, 28 to implement a new behavior. So you really have to acknowledge that inner child that is you have to understand that they don't understand where you are in life until you start telling them. And what happens is that battle, that tug of war, that power struggle starts to lessen, and she begins to relax because she doesn't even know how to play.
Yes.
So I always say, go buy yourself a toy that you never got as a child, take it out of the package and play with it. Absolutely. I'm the biggest child. And I always say, go get bubbles, crayons, whatever it is that allows you to play and be playful.
Yes. Yes. And she's so powerful. She's so powerful. It's really unleashing that within, that power within, which Tony Robbins is talking about in our feminine way.
Absolutely. And when you keep telling her, I love you, your pain has been your greatest teacher. And it would be a shame not to acknowledge your pain, because it's your pain that made you who you are, who brought you to where you are and made you who you are.
Powerful.
So
Thank
acknowledge
you
it,
so much.
bless it, and give grace to it. Seriously.
Christine, this is fascinating. I want to acknowledge your presence today.
Thank you.
I am just feeling honored, cherished. I feel like I have some openings in my mind. I think everyone here can get connected to that. Thank you so much for your divine, beautiful presence.
My pleasure. Truly a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you.